Welcome back, guys. My name is Chris, and in this video, we're going to be talking about Joule, which is SAP's AI feature. So first off, I want to make it clear up front, I'm not doing a tutorial for various elements of Joule in this video. There's way too much to talk about in one short video. As I start doing videos and full-fledged courses on every SAP product, in each one, I'll do a description of not only what the product does, but also what Joule does for that product. So we'll go through some detailed tutorials coming up in the near future. But for now, I want to talk about Joule more at an overview level, understand where it came from, where it currently stands, and what is the forward vision for Joule. So first off, and just to understand that this video is part of an introduction to SAP series. This is actually the last video in the series. So if you want to have a full understanding of the SAP ecosystem and everything that's going on with that, check out any of the other 5 videos in this series. But when we're talking about Joule specifically, from a historical standpoint, there was a few precursors that came before Joule. So there was a kind of like a assistant chatbot that SAP had back in the day. I think it was in 2017. It was called Copilot. They then had SAP Business AI, which became AI Core. That was a few years ago, and even then, I mean, technically it was AI, but it was more back-end AI as opposed to what we kind of have now with Joule, and that was launched in 2023. The focus being more on agentic AI. In other words, AI where it is an agent you can give instructions and tasks to, and it then doesn't work for you, which makes things much more efficient for the end users or the clients. So that's kind of how it's gone through the process. And when you talk about Joule, because again, Joule is more like a set of tools. It's not one particular tool. There's really different 3 major categories that you could look at Joule for. So one is, as we've been talking about, Joule for the end user or the client, and that is more agentic AI based. That is them going in. I mean, they can also use AI for search capabilities and to gain insights, but primarily the concept is you've got your own little worker bee AI in the system you can give instructions to, so you don't have to do a lot of the tedious stuff. The AI will do it for you. So that's one element of Joule. But then you have AI for consultants. There's many different tools and features that allow SAP consultants to go in and say, okay, I need to configure this in the system, or I need to set up this workflow. And they can go to the AI tool and say, give me a listing of the best practices for this kind of configuration, or the listed instructions for setting up this workflow, etc. So that is a tool that they can utilize, because honestly, when you're dealing with SAP, the depth of the products and the sheer number of products makes it so that no one consultant knows everything there is to know about SAP. So when you go in, it's nice to have something that you can rely on to give you, for the circumstance, the best practice setup and walkthrough instructions. The third major aspect of AI is for developers. And there are a few existing AI tools for developers. The concept is that you're working in an integrated development environment and you have an AI, almost like a copilot, that you can start writing a line of code and it fills in the blank for you, or kind of finishes the sentence. And you can give it instructions saying, hey, I want a piece of code that's going to do this. And it populates that whole code. You can take that, you can put that into a larger development project that you're working in. So that is definitely a useful tool for a lot of developers. It's still in its early stages, so I wouldn't say it's amazing, but that is something that can be very helpful. Another point I want to bring up is something you may never have heard of, and you may never hear about it, but just so that you're aware of it. There's a thing called SAP Knowledge Graph, which basically is underneath the hood, and it's processing all the raw data. You could consider it like a semantic layer where it's going through the raw information and processing that so it can take something that's actually useful that the AI with Joule can utilize to make the decisions and to do tasks, executions, do search filters, etc. All of these things that make the AI tool useful requires that processed raw data to be able to actually interpret it and utilize it in the system. So again, SAP Knowledge Graph is that layer that allows the AI to do what it needs to do. So that's the overall concept, but what we haven't talked about is the fact of, is Joule even useful? Is it at the cutting edge? Is it doing all these miraculous things that SAP is saying? Because if you've ever been to the SAP Sapphire convention, or you go onto the website or look at any of the marketing copy, the entire message forward is that Joule is the cutting edge. It's going to blow everyone away. It's going to completely change how the software works, et cetera, et cetera. And you don't just hear that from SAP. You hear that from everyone in the ecosystem. The consulting companies, the developers, et cetera, all the partners, they all say the same thing. The reality is, I mean, if you start going through Reddit postings or blogs on people who've actually utilized or tried to work with these Joule products, how do they actually feel about them? It is way on the other end of the spectrum. And I'm not going to bring out any particular comments, but the fact remains that there's a huge gap between the PR message going forward and the marketing pitch and the reality of where this thing stands currently. I'm not going to put my own opinion into it at this moment. I'll wait until I get to the specific tutorials, because there's some elements that I think are useful. There's many that I think are overhyped, or they're just not, you could say undercooked. They're not ready for what they're trying to accomplish. The bright news is that SAP is putting a massive amount of capital and investment into developing these AI products, because they know they have to if they're going to keep up as a major and leading ERP software. And the way AI works is that with enough data, enough experience and usage, it gets better and it gets more useful as something that can make our work more effective, more efficient, etc. So I have no question, as long as they keep pushing in that direction and we can kind of hopefully cut out the noise and ignore the hype, there is some benefit and actual efficiency and usefulness that will come out of these AI products as they're able to get a foothold into the software and hopefully get rolled out on more products. So it's not just limited to a handful of different SAP products. So overall, I would say the future looks bright, but the current position, have no question that it is not all it's cracked up to be. It's not particularly helpful in the majority of circumstances, but these things will come with time. So overall, I hope you found this video helpful. If so, please hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see all of the future tutorials and full-fledged courses that I have rolling out in the very near future. And with all of that in mind, I hope to see you in the next video.